Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can utilize influencers, and specifically YouTube influencers or Instagram influencers for your next Amazon FBA product launch. If you guys don't know, my name's Lamar and I'm a 7-figure Amazon FBA seller. I have 3 private label brands and I sell on Amazon and on my own Shopify websites. In this video, I'm going to be talking all about how you can utilize influencers. And I'm going to be covering 3 main areas. It's going to be the outreach, how to negotiate with the influencers, and then how to analyze the results of influencers. Now, influencers is one area in the Amazon FBA space that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And I think that that's one of the biggest mistakes. You hear lots about search, find, buy. You hear lots about giveaways. You hear lots about Amazon PPC. You hear about a lot of these other launch tactics when it comes to Amazon. However, there's not a lot of people talking about influencers and how to utilize them. And I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes. And this is actually one of my strongest areas when it comes to digital marketing. I've worked with hundreds of influencers across multiple brands and driven thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars utilizing influencers. Now, the things that I'm going to be talking about in today's video can be applied to your own website or to a landing page. It doesn't necessarily have to only be used on Amazon, right? This is a very common digital marketing strategy, the use of influencer marketing, and we're just gonna be applying it to the Amazon FBA model. So a lot of the things I'm gonna be talking about in today's video can be applied to your website or another digital asset that you might have. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go along with this video, because these strategies are going to be useful in other parts of your overall brand strategy for your product on Amazon or your larger brand strategy. Before we jump into today's video, I wanted to make sure that you hit that subscribe button and that you've given me a thumbs up if you're getting value out of this video. I know that working with influencers and all these different things that you can do to help promote your Amazon FBA listing can sometimes get overwhelming. And that's why in today's video, I'm just gonna cut right to the basics. I'm gonna give you kind of a high-level overview of exactly what you need to know, when you need to do it, so that you can be successful utilizing influencers for your Amazon FBA product listing. Now let's first talk about outreach. And outreach is gonna be one of the most important aspects of this entire process because it comes down to you being able to identify your niche. Most products will fall into a category of type of influencers, where the influencer is going to talk about that niche category that your product falls into. So it's up to you to find out what that niche is. Now, equally important is not what the influencer necessarily talks about, but what the influencer viewer base is. So while I might talk a lot about kitchen gadgets, let's say for example, and you might immediately think that a bunch of 35 to 45 women are the target demographic or the target audience that the influencer is speaking to. However, after you kind of dig through and uncover some of the demographic information on that channel, you might find that actually the channel is more geared towards men. So you have to keep in mind not just what the influencer is talking about, but what does the influencer's viewership base look like? Now, there's a couple of websites and services that you can use to get this demographic information and just kind of confirm that this is the type of audience that you want to be, essentially promoting your product to. However, the easiest way to do this is when you're conducting your outreach, or when you're in the negotiating stage, which you're gonna be talking about a little bit later on, is just ask the influencer for this information. They have a lot of analytics in the back of their YouTube account that they can provide you. They're gonna be willing to provide you because here you are trying to cut a deal with them. So they're gonna be very eager to provide you as much information as they can about why you should work with them. Now that we've kind of talked about identifying your niche and maybe that target demographic that you're looking to serve your sponsorship or your product to, we need to talk about the platform. Now, my personal favorite platform to do influencer relationships with is on YouTube. And I'm going to be talking mainly about YouTube and Instagram in this video. However, don't disregard all the other social media platforms out there. I'm just most familiar with YouTube and Instagram. And quite frankly, I've seen the most success on YouTube, so I'm most excited about YouTube when I'm talking about it. Equally as important is with every social media platform, there are pros and cons to each one. The reason I like YouTube so much is that more times than not, the influencer is on YouTube. Kind of like this video right here. You guys are quite familiar with me, with my face. Hopefully you're personally invested with what I'm saying and what I'm trying to offer and teach you. So you have a little bit more of a deeper connection with me as opposed to if I was just posting stats or tips on Instagram. You get to see much more of my personality behind the camera. And that's where I think the power is within YouTube. So when going out and looking for influencers on YouTube, typically speaking, the followers that are watching and engaging with YouTube channels are gonna have a higher engagement rate. So then therefore, when these YouTube influencers go and recommend a product on their channel, they're gonna be more likely to take an action, which is why the power of YouTube is so undervalued, but so powerful. Now, the other great thing about YouTube is that on the spectrum of trackability or analyzing your results, because I'm gonna be getting down to this point, but analyzing the results or the impact that the influencers have is going to be extremely important in whether you work with them again or not. When it comes to YouTube, YouTube tends to be easier to track those results. You can add in a link very easily to the description of the YouTuber's video, or depending on the relationship and the deal that you cut out with them, they might even be able to link directly within their YouTube video. So as you can see, or in comparison to other social media platforms out there, they're not gonna allow as much of that direct link there, or they're not gonna allow such an easy, direct, clickable link for that viewer to take immediate action. And that's really why I like YouTube so much as well, because it allows us to just get a little bit more granular when it comes to tracking. Now, the downside with working with influencers on YouTube is that there's just not a lot of them, typically speaking, right? A lot of you are probably in sub niches or hyper niches, and there might not be a lot of influencers talking about your specific product or your niche. And therefore, you might kind of easily tap out of the availability of those types of influencers. And this has happened to us a couple of times, right? Let's say that we're in the outdoor category or the sports category, and we've completely tapped out of all of the influencers. We've literally reached out to all of them on YouTube, and there just are no more. So that can frequently happen when it comes to YouTube. And the reality is that it's because it's hard to consistently make ongoing videos on YouTube. It's a really hard thing to do. It's really hard to build a successful YouTube channel, so then therefore there's less of them. However, the ones that are building successful YouTube channels and that are there are highly impactful, as like I said. Now let's talk a little bit about Instagram. On Instagram, the largest pro here is that there's so many influencers out there, and it makes sense. Anybody can just start an Instagram account, start posting pictures and memes, and start to gain a following. Now, of course, there's going to be higher and lower quality of those types of influencers. However, you're just going to have a lot more to choose from. And quite frankly, it's a lot easier to make a bunch of pictures, like I said, instead of videos like you'd see on YouTube. Typically what that means though is that you're gonna run into a lot of accounts with lower engagement. And I'm gonna keep bringing up engagement because engagement is one of the most important or crucial things that you're gonna use when it comes to deciding which influencers you wanna work with. And engagement mainly means comments, likes, average view count on that video. So when it comes to Instagram, you can see a lot more variance in the engagement rate compared to YouTube. I've also found that typically influencers are a little bit less invested on Instagram. You know, like I said, it's much easier just to throw up a picture of your product on their Instagram page and say, get 10% off, link in bio. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all seen many Instagram posts like that. However, that's just not as meaningful to the viewer when compared to YouTube. So typically the influencer is a little bit less invested within the product or their sponsorship unless it's a video that you can have the influencer do on Instagram. You know, sometimes you can have them do a story, and in that case, then there might be a little bit more of engagement, or the viewer base will get a little bit more out of that sponsorship. And that's really one of the most important things about working with influencers, is that you want them to naturally use and like the product. Now, of course, you're going to be sponsoring the post, but the most success comes from just having the product and having them use it and like slyly mention it or show people that they're interested, that they're genuinely interested in your product. It's also, on Instagram, it's also a little bit harder to track results. So while on YouTube you can have a link in the description, you're not able to do that on Instagram. And tends to happen is people put the link up in the bio, and it's just a multitude of additional steps that the viewer has to take in order for you to begin to kind of track and analyze the results or impact that that sponsorship has had on your product. It's also extremely easy for influencers to fake their engagement rates or fake the number of views that you might have gotten on your sponsorship post and tricking you into believing that the post did a lot better than it actually did. On YouTube, you can still see that happen, but it's just a little bit harder and tends not to happen as much. There's just less of a personal touch when it comes to Instagram. Like I said though, the flip side is that there's a lot more Instagram influencers out there. You still can be successful on Instagram. You just gotta be able to cut through the noise, cut through the crap, and really find those high quality accounts. So just a couple more tips here on the outreach. What I would first do is, as I said, identify your niche, your target demographic, who you want your sponsorship to be targeted towards. Then you're going to identify your social media platform, and then you're going to perform the outreach. Typically when we do this, we list build. So we'll list build 100, 200, 300 influencers. We put them in a big spreadsheet and we gather all the information, all the public information that we can about them. And then we just start going down the list and we email all of them. And in our outreach, in our email, we're quite direct. We say quickly who we are and basically what we want. Now, if you don't have the budget to pay an influencer for the sponsorship, that's okay. It still is getting your product in front of them, still outreaching to them, is putting your product in front of them. They might do a sponsorship post, or they might do it for free. You know, some of the smaller accounts are happy to just do a swap, an exchange, that you give them a free product and they give you a free post. And that happens all the time, and you can be extremely successful with doing that. Now, if you do have the budget, or you want to spend a little bit of money on influencer outreach, you can say directly in your email that you will give them a free product, you will pay them a sponsorship fee, and you will give their viewership a discount on your product. And those are typically the three things that we are outreaching with within our email. So we say, you'll get a free product, we'll pay you, and we'll give all of your viewers a free discount as well. Now, I know that there's a bunch of influencer agencies or different software tools out there that help aggregate influencers or pull up data on influencers. We've used a couple of them, and to be honest, I still come back to just list building and Excel. We like to have a personal relationship with that influencer. And we found a lot of success with just directly outreaching to them. You know, a lot of these influencers have their email addresses publicly available because they want people to reach out to them. That's both on YouTube and Instagram. So finding this information is actually quite easy. You just need to put in the work of list building and then outreaching to them and cutting a deal with them. Now, I'm going to give you a very important tip here where a lot of people make this mistake. They'll reach out to an influencer They'll work out this great deal and they'll do a single post with them and they'll call it a day and clap their hands and say, yes, I was successful. I got an influencer posting about my product. The key to be successful with influencers, whether that's, working with influencer for your Amazon FBA product launch or just driving sales to your website, the key comes down to consistency. You need to be working with influencers on an ongoing basis. You don't just want to do a one-off post. Now, of course, if that's all your budget can afford and you're just giving them a free product in exchange for a post, then that's all you can do, right? But as your business continues to scale and as you have those relationships with those influencers, the most important thing that you can do, and really where you'll see huge results with working with influencers, is working with them on a consistent basis. So working with them on an ongoing or consistent basis is really where you're going to see those exponential results of the impact when it comes to working with influencers on a sponsorship. Now let's talk a little bit about negotiation, or what essentially you're going to want to do with these influencers. Kind of what does the campaign look like in a sense? And the first thing to mention is that in most cases, guys, if you have a website and your website is, looks professional, is built out a little bit, I would say direct all of your traffic back to your website, unless it's an Amazon product launch. And the reason for that is that when you push traffic to Amazon, the customer, the viewer, can get extremely distracted and they can start clicking a bunch of different yellow buttons. They can click on someone else's sponsored ad. Worst case scenario is that you push them to Amazon and they end up buying your competitor's product. That's exactly what you don't want to happen. So when I'm working with influencers, the majority of the time I'm pushing them to my own website unless I'm doing a product launch. Now, another option is that you can push them to an opt-in page. Let's say that you have some sort of free PDF or a free gift, or maybe you're offering a contest, right? So the influencer can essentially post about the contest that you're running. You can send all that traffic to a landing page, or maybe it is just your website and your website has a landing page where the user can opt in as a chance to win your contest in exchange for their email or a ManyChat subscription. So under this strategy, you're essentially collecting their email, and if you have a great lead magnet or opt-in, something there that's really catchy and that people want and that will put their email in for, it allows you then to remarket to them later down the road, even if they don't directly purchase that first time. So having that landing page or pushing all that traffic from the sponsorship to a landing page, capturing that email address, will just allow you to keep in contact with them and help you build up more of an ongoing launch list or an email database that you can then launch other products to, or maybe do a second or third launch on Amazon. As I already mentioned, you're for sure gonna want to send your product to the influencer so that they can hold, feel, be passionate about your product before they go and make their YouTube video or the Instagram post. You want them to be invested with a product, and the only way to do that is to send it to them and give it to them for free, and that's pretty much very common. Now, if you do have some budget, talking about a sponsorship fee typically varies quite drastically depending on the experience level of the influencer that you're dealing with. Sponsorship fees are really all over the board. There isn't really a standard sponsorship fee. You really have to take each influencer on its own and do your best to negotiate with them. Typically speaking, we will start the negotiation anywhere from $5 to $20 per 1,000 average views. Okay, so if the YouTube influencer has got 1,000 views on their YouTube channel on average, over the past, let's say 10 videos, then we will come in and we will say, okay, we value your channel at $20 for 1,000 views. And that's where we kind of start the negotiation process. So, and the influencer might say, no, I'm not going to do a sponsorship unless it's $100. And we're offering $20, and then you've got to kind of come and meet in the middle somewhere. But typically $5 to $20 is where we start the negotiation process, and that's for 1,000 views on average. A couple points about the post is that if you're doing a YouTube sponsorship, you definitely want to have the sponsorship or your product call out within the first minute within that video, right? You don't want the sponsorship mention to be all the way at the end of the video. You want the YouTuber to say or talk about your product within the first minute to 2 minutes of their video. Also with YouTube is you want to make sure that you have your link or the link, the call to action, wherever you're sending them, whether that's to Amazon, your website, a landing page. You want that link to be directly below the YouTuber's video and within the description section above where the user would have to click show more. So you want that link all the way to the top of the description so the YouTuber can mention your product and then say click the link below. And then quite obviously on Instagram, you just want to make sure that you have a dedicated post. You have the influencer there, whether it's an image like posing with the product, or maybe they're doing a little GIF or they're doing a video or whatever it is. You just want a dedicated product post, you having the influencer use your product, and then they're going to have to direct them in some way. Typically speaking, they're not going to be having a strong call to action within the video or the post, and it's going to be in text form at the bottom, and you'll have to have a link in the bio, and you'll be working out all those small details directly with the influencer. But you just want to make sure that you have an individual post, whether that's a story or an Instagram post, that speaks directly about your product. Now, last but not least, let's talk about analyze. This is one of the most crucial aspects about working with influencers. We want to be able to try to track our results as best as we can so that we know the impact that each influencer is having and whether we want to work with them again and again. Now, while that's all good and said and done, it's one of the most challenging aspects about it because, as you have probably experienced yourself, many people will watch a YouTube video or see an Instagram post and then they won't take any action. Or maybe they just won't click the link below and then they'll just go to Amazon themselves and search for the product. And in that case, it's very challenging to directly track the impact that the influencer is having. So you want to do as best of your ability to direct people through your link. You want to have an attractive offer that encourages the viewership to take a direct and immediate action. However, of course, there's just going to be this indirect benefit or indirect results that's just going to naturally happen when it comes to influencer marketing. Now, if you're running your influencer sponsorship through a landing page, you can direct all that traffic through a landing page. And one of the easiest ways to track the performance of that is then to just see how many people opt into your landing page. And on the back side of that landing page, you can offer an Amazon coupon code for a discount on your product. And then that allows you to see how many purchases actually happen because you can see how many people are using your discount code. There's also a new program that Amazon is rolling out. I think it's called Amazon Attribution. If you have this option available within your Amazon seller account, it's going to be under your brand analytics. Underneath brand analytics, Amazon has just rolled out a program where they're addressing this exact issue. They're allowing external traffic, or they're encouraging external traffic to be more easily tracked and monitored through an Amazon tracking pixel, essentially, that they're building out for third-party sellers. So if you have this feature, it's going to be under your brand analytics, and you can set it up, which will give you a special link that'll then help you track the external traffic coming from the influencer and that you're pushing onto Amazon. And you're able to track clicks, views, and sales through Amazon Attribution. And then last but not least, as I've been mentioning, if you set up that landing page, you can have people opt into that landing page and kind of give you a sense of how many email addresses or how many views you've received to that landing page, and then give attribution to the influencer and whatnot. Now, I also wanted to mention or talk a little bit more about the indirect benefits. Trackable results, the trackable results that you get from an influencer can most of the times be doubled or tripled in indirect benefits, because let's say that you're able to track 3-4 sales coming from a specific influencer. You can probably safely assume that that influencer will probably drive 10 purchases over that same time period through indirect results. Just because you're not seeing the direct results come through that link, like I said, people are going to be viewing that post, viewing that YouTube video, and then just going directly to your website, going directly to the Amazon listing and still purchasing. And that's why it's so challenging when it comes to influencer marketing, is just calculating those indirect results. In addition to the pure sales results, I also wanted to make a point here that the digital assets that the influencer creates, such as the video or the images, is equally as valuable. You can use that content, whether that's in your Amazon listing or emails or other ads that you're potentially running. I mean, you can recycle that content and use it in a bunch of other areas. You can now say on your Amazon listing that you're working with so-and-so. I mean, there's a lot of upside to the content that they're creating. And I just don't want you to undervalue that aspect as well. So you get the benefit of the direct sales or the email addresses, but then you also get the digital assets that you're able to use later on. So there you guys have it. This is kind of a high-level overview of how you can go about working with influencers, whether that's on YouTube or Instagram for your Amazon product launch. And more generally speaking, just digital marketing strategy, whether that's for your website, Amazon product, it doesn't really matter. This is just how I'm going about working with influencers. Like I've said, we've seen a ton of great success with working and utilizing with influencers. And I think it's one of the most undervalued, not very talked about topic out there when it comes to digital marketing on Amazon. So I hope you got value out of this video. If you have, please hit that thumbs up button. Definitely drop a comment below. Tell me how you're using influencers. What are some of the good things and hard things that you might be struggling with? Are you seeing success with using influencers for your Amazon product launch? I'd love to know, love to get some feedback from you. And if you get a chance, please check out my course in the link below, where you guys can get a full-blown access to me. And if you're interested in launching a product on Amazon, getting a complete step-by-step process on how to go from idea to launch when it comes to Amazon FBA, you're definitely going to want to check out my course. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.